Thursday. It's the end of the workday, and you're right where you need to be. You're on there with Ron and Romane. So, folks, I want to welcome you to the show today, and we have a very interesting topic. In fact, maybe an explosive topic. So, before I begin, I need to issue somewhat of a disclaimer. So, for the men that may be listening, if you are a man who loves, honors, and respects your wife, if you embrace the role of full-time father, and you're giving back in any way you can, in whatever small way you can to the community, some or maybe much of what you might hear today will not apply to you. For those other dudes who are busy running away from J&R, and that's jobs and responsibility. These are things you need to hear, and you need to really listen this time. So my partner in time is back, Romane, and we have a special guest with us today, someone who is no stranger to Gynesis Radio. We have Mama C joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Guys.
And we have Dr. Lamar Renee Spencer going to join us a little later. But ladies, let's get right into this. I asked a question last week as we were going off the air, and the question was, are women in general angry with men? And are Black women in particular angry with Black men? So I guess we'll kind of go clockwise. So we're going to start with you, Mama C. What's your take?
That's right. Throw it at me first. Throw it at me. That's right. Throw it at me. Yeah, I think a lot are, and I think they are rightfully angry. But they also need to understand they need to clean up their own act. A lot of them are angry because they've not. See, once you deal with your anger and understand where that anger is coming from, there's no longer any need to be angry. You find a place of understanding and a place of considering someone else besides yourself. You got a lot of women who it's all about me, it's all about them, and they're not considering what's going on with the men, and they're not even considering what's going on with them. So you got to clean up, ladies, you got to clean up your act, and I'm speaking from experience. I've never been an angry woman at a man. I've never had that kind of interaction with men. I may have been disappointed. I'd say I was disappointed more than I was angry. But I had to go back and understand why I was having the kind of relationships I was having. I had to go inside myself and do the work. And it wasn't until I was 50 when I realized that the relationships with men were that I had were caused by the dysfunction of my childhood. And I hadn't fully understood that. See, I think when you go through a lot of dysfunction, especially when you go through sexual abuse, which I did, you tend to try and find men who you can control, who won't sexually abuse you. And so often you pick weak men, men who've got serious issues and who you can control, or who you have more power over than they have over you. Okay, so that, once I realized that, my whole life flipped, for the better. I realized that I no longer had to be afraid of men mistreating me, either physically or sexually. I've never had a man I had a man shove me, but I did the exorcist on him.
Oh.
Okay? And my head went spinning around, and let me tell you, that relationship ended that night. That relationship ended that night.
As it should have.
Because I told him, I said, if I let you shove me, next time you're going to hit me. And if you hit me, one of us is going to die. I said, so I'm going to resolve that issue by ending this right now. And then he kept calling, trying to scare me. But you can't scare me. I've been through a lot. You know, I learned how to deal with the craziness of life. So we have to look at why we respond the way we respond in relationships with men. Maybe we're choosing men that we feel we can control. And then when you choose a man who is out of place with who he is, there's going to be friction. There's going to be a whole lot of chaos and confusion. There's going to be a imbalance in the relationship.
That's such a good thing you just said. Imbalance.
Yeah. So once I realized why I had chosen the type of men I had chosen, it's like a whole new thing came over me. And so I didn't even feel the need to go searching or wanting. I figured if it's if God has it in store for me to be with someone, I will. But in God's time.
Right.
Okay? I don't have to search for them. I don't have to wish for them. I don't have to do nothing because I dealt with what was going on inside of me and learned to understand me. And that's what women, Ron and Robin, that's what women have to do. You have to figure out why you're angry. And you have to figure out why you keep choosing men who disappoint you.
Now, you raised some interesting points. But first, I want to hear your response. You know, do you think women in general are angry? Do you think that Black women are angry with Black men in particular? And is there a good reason for there to be anger?
I think that women are angry. I think that Black women are angry, and she used a very important word too, disappointed. Sometimes we don't know how to communicate our disappointment, and so we're angry. And I think that the anger and the disappointment, and oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes is valid, right? However, the bigger piece is that we haven't done the work either. The even bigger piece of that is that they won't listen when you try to tell them. And you know, you've heard me say this before. If we want to fix it, right, then when men say this is the issue, we have to be willing to listen.
Absolutely.
We don't want to listen. And nobody wants a nag. A Black man, a white man, a purple man, a green man. No, nobody wants a nag. Nobody wants a woman who is more masculine, you know, I mean, I'm sorry, but nobody wants the, what is it? The she king? Nobody wants. Nobody wants.
Oh, the woman king.
The woman king.
King.
Nobody wants to come home to woman king.
Now, I'm not sure about that. Because, you know, men's thinking is not monolithic. So you talked about weak men, and weak men might want a strong woman. They might need one. In fact, I've been in situations where there have been confrontations where the woman went out and said, let me deal with this situation. And he stood back. So I don't know if that's always the case. But what I'm hearing from both of you.
But you said a weak man.
Right.
But he's not healthy. But a healthy man wants a healthy, emotionally healthy woman, right?
Yes.
And the testosterone, the estrogen, the progesterone, all these different hormones, right? There needs to be some balance, right? And balance in our relationship, right? So if we don't have balance, then we have a mess.
But now you said healthy men. How many of us are truly healthy?
Not many.
Spiritually, emotionally, you know, how many of us are healthy? And our relationships are reflective of our dysfunction and our lack of spiritual and emotional health.
Absolutely. And let me just say that one of the biggest problems, I don't like the word problem, challenges that we're dealing with is both men and women have masculine and feminine energy.
Absolutely.
But neither one knows how to use it. You know, women today tend to be overly masculine. They don't know how to use their feminine energy. And I watch, even in my own house, there's no man in my house, but there's a whole bunch of strong women. Why? Because we have to be. There's no man to pull up the front, the back, the sides, or whatever we need. So we've had to be more masculine, and that's that. The masculine is the strong. That strong. We had to have that strength. Okay, and so when a woman whose masculine power is more powerful than her feminine power, you got something that's out of kilter there. And then you got men who reject their feminine power because they've been told if they act feminine, they're gay. Or they're all kinds of names. They're a faggot. They're this, they're that. And so men think that in a relationship, they've got to basically project their masculine energy. A woman wants TLC just like a man wants TLC. That comes from the feminine energy. That doesn't come from the masculine energy.
I think one of the challenges is for men, we do not have the option to express our emotions. We're told from the time we're little boys, keep it inside. Don't talk about it. Don't show weakness. And certainly do not cry, right? That is something that men do not do. We all are born with tear ducts and the ability to produce it, but you're not supposed to. But, what's interesting is it seems as if both of you are saying, well, the fault, and I don't know if fault is the right word. It seems as if you're kind of letting the men off the hook to some degree.
Oh, no.
I don't. You know what, Ron? I don't think we're letting the guys off the hook. I think that Mama C mentioned when she turned 50.
Right.
The light came on.
Just last year.
Right?
Just last year.
Yeah.
And guess what? And when I turned 50 was about the time I think the light came on. Right. And so you hit that midlife thing. You do a midlife review, right? You do some self-introspection. You start to look at yourself, right? I mean, somebody who really wants to do the work, right? They start to go through this process. The midlife review, you can't avoid it.
Right.
So you can either make good of it and grow from it, or either you can look at it and become depressed if you're not ready to do the work. Right? Yeah. But if you're ready to do the work, then you actually will come
get
up
with it.
Yeah. And so and if we're gonna grow, we have to be fair, and we have to look at the men too and say, okay, the men are all wrong. Something's not right because they're choosing Asian women, white women, Latino women. They're choosing everybody over us.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, right?
But we're starting to do the same thing too. Well,
yes.
I think
we've had enough.
But I think again, we're doing it by default, not because we want to, but because they're available.
And that is kind of what I wanted to get to, right? And Mama C and I were talking, outside briefly. And for Black women, I think, and women in general, I think what happens is women do things in response to what they believe men want. So we're talking how in the 70s we were all natural. Everybody had the afro, right? It was brother, it was sister. Well, now we went from the natural first to the straightening comb, and then the relaxer, the chemical relaxer, and now the weave. And I think there's a belief amongst women, particularly Black women, that this is what men want to see. And even after that transformation, there's still rejection. You have women, Black women, and I guess women in general, because you find a lot of Caucasian women who've had breast augmentation, who've had, I guess, augmentations of the hips and the buttocks, and who still may face rejection. And you find, Black women who are so desperate to be, I guess, that prototypical sexual image that black men want. You know, there's so many women that have gone to unlicensed doctors and had many of them died from having concrete injected into their buttocks.
Can I interject on behalf of the fellas? I'm gonna interject on behalf of the fellas.
Okay,
I have two sons now, so you know I'm talking to the fellas, right? Okay. So, newsflash: the black men are forsaking the big booty and the smile for no booty, for the peace and the support that they're saying we're not capable of giving them anymore. And some of us are so angry that when we get in a relationship, instead of us having a list of how we want to build in a relationship cooperatively, we have a list of what we're not doing in a relationship. And if you coming into a relationship with a list of what you're not doing, then maybe what you're not doing is having a relationship.
Absolutely.
Right? So
you're not going to have a relationship.
No, you're not.
There's something going on there, but it's not a healthy relationship.
That's right.
You know? So I think that, you know, going back to what you were saying, I think more than trying to attract men, I think black women have been trying to feel good about themselves. So all of these changes that they've been making has been an attempt to feel good about yourself, but you can never feel good about yourself externally until you feel good about yourself internally.
But you know what? I think it's more than that. Right now in this country, black women represent the most educated class.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Has the black community, in particular black men, have we applauded loud enough and long enough? Have we acknowledged this achievement? And I think it's because, well, and you and I talked about this, from the time we came to these shores, when we brought here and changed, we had two constant companions, our belief in a higher power in the black woman. And at some point, we turned our back on both of them. You know, if you look at people in this country, if you look at people who identify themselves being Christians, and the declining numbers of people who regularly attend church. And in terms of the black woman who's been the constant companion, you said that we're abandoning them for other women. Why? And I think it's something psychological. Well, I know some psychological in the black man.
Oh, absolutely.
Simply because when we were on the plantation, you know, the woman of the house would come down and walk past the slave quarters, and she wore perfume. Her hair was done. We had this belief that God looked like her. The skin color, the hair. So psychologically, we want what we cannot have. Now we're in a situation where you take so many young black men growing up in the hood who really don't have much interaction with women, you know, Caucasian and other nationalities. But when they sign that multi-million-dollar contract, all of a sudden, you know, the sister that supported you no longer good enough.
Let me just say that I think psychologically, white women still represent that they have reached that level of success. Okay. And then wherein black women aren't going to chase you the way that white women may. Black men get successful and here they come. You know, they're all over the place. They're all over the black man. And so he's thinking, oh, well, you know, now they're chasing me now. I'm successful. I've made it. This is a symbol that I've made it. And that's part of what's going on. But then, you know, you still have the insecure black woman who is not standing up for herself. Doing the work she needs to do and recognizing what's going on. So stuff is just happening and she's allowing it to happen.
And then again, here's this black man who's made it. Right? Financially, he's made it, and the white women that are chasing him, right? They're doing the chasing in a very soft and feminine way. That's what they're doing.
Yes, they are.
And we're not doing that. We're saying what we're not going to do. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing. We got the, and I do it sometimes. I have to catch myself. Not that I'm not doing this, but I might even talk a minute with a little
Do the
head
head
pop.
stuff going
Right,
right.
But why?
Well, because part of it is what we've been taught culturally.
And that's the answer.
But,
that's the answer.
But
There you go.
But it's not right, though.
I'm not saying it's right.
And so we can't put all the weight on the brothers.
And
we can't say that.
You can't.
No.
However, what you just said is, things I'm not going to do.
Yep.
And it's because of the history between black men and black women, whereas the black women are teaching their daughters, don't you be dependent on no man. You go out and you get that degree, you get that home, you get that car, you be able to take care of yourself. Don't trust him.
I don't need no man.
I don't need him.
But you know what's important too, since you're saying that because we are taught that, right?
Absolutely.
But what was really good to hear, right? So I'm gonna throw it in there. I said I was gonna be on the brother's side.
Okay, you did.
So what I think we need to hear is you can't be independent in a cooperative union. You can't
No,
be.
you can't.
You can't.
You're right.
So
You're right.
when we coming into a relationship and we with a significant other and we're saying, well, I'm independent and this is what I bring to the table and I bring this, but he's not in a relationship. He's not looking for a woman that's independent. He's looking for a woman that's cooperative, right?
Absolutely.
That we could build, that's going to support him. And newsflash for the sisters, that's what the white women are doing. That's how they're winning.
But you know something?
That's how they're winning.
Absolutely.
But you see, that is what we're taught, right? I believe that you have your children, and for 18 years, you're putting yourself into that child, right? Your morals, your thoughts, everything goes into nurturing that child. And, 18, 19, 20, they go off to college or wherever. If you take a people and you have them for 400 years, how much of the master is in the slave? So we now think in terms of independence when nothing in the universe is independent of anything else. So that is the teaching.
I just want to add something there. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
That is the teaching that we have received, right? In some Native American groups, there's no word for mine. Everything is part of the collective, right? Where everything was for everybody to share. But we now have become those people that think in terms of me, that put mom and daddy in nursing homes. We didn't do that. That was not us.
Sure.
And those pressures that black women have, black men have them too. And we're not really dealing well with those pressures. So we come home angry and frustrated, and we take it out on each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And until, women clear out the clutter, until we do the internal work to strip away the conditioning that causes us to work against each other, it's going to continue. You've got to the women have got to do the work, okay? Because somebody's got to lead the march here. Somebody. And if men are angry with women and women are angry with men, and if you can't communicate with one another and say, hey, I have a friend. He calls me every day and we talk. He lives in Texas. I'm here in Pennsylvania. And I practice with him. When I find myself, the masculine energy wanting to rah, I catch myself and pull back. Why? He's not that kind of man. I mean, he's a strong, dynamic, energetic, intelligent, kind, giving man. I have to remind myself that. Okay. I don't have to fight with him. I don't have to fight with him to prove anything. And yesterday when we were talking, I was saying we communicate very well.
That's the problem. So many people got something to prove.
Yeah,
it's always
exactly.
trying to prove that I'm the strong one,
Mm-hmm.
you're the weak one, and that's a problem. But what I want to touch base on is y'all talked about white women dating and winning successful black men. One of the things that y'all didn't mention was a lot of successful black men to continue up the corporate ladder successfully. It's not that they want to turn their back on their childhood sweetheart or the girl from the hood. You know what it is? A lot of these deals that's made are made at social functions, on the golf course, and all type of things. And the girlfriend has to fit into the wives club.
Yeah.
There is what's called a wives club. See, the two men, whether no matter what their nationality is, they already decide they want to do business with each other, and that's why they've been invited to the event, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the wives. You know what I mean? So guess what? And I've been to Michael Jordan's golf classic that he had years ago, and you know what? When you bring that uncultured sister to the event, she's not going to fit into the wives club because they're having cocktails, right? You're either grabbing a glass of wine or you're grabbing a glass of champagne. She wants a sex on the beach, or she wants some Hennessy, right? So now that's the first red flag that she doesn't belong here, right? Then little girls chew gum. It's little things like that. She's at the event chewing gum.
Popping gum.
Another thing. So all of a sudden now the wives, they're going to powder their nose now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And that's it.
And you know what? And that becomes part of the thing. So what happens is now the event's over. The people who signing the checks, who's cutting the deals, you know what? They go back and say, "Hun, what you think? We're going to do business with him." And the wife said, "Nah,
no.
I don't think that's going to work."
Mm-hmm.
You know
mm-hmm.
why? Because she's not going to fit in. You know what I mean? Because we do everything as a unit,
Mm-hmm.
collectively,
Mm-hmm.
and she brings something to the table that's not
out
culture.
of sorts.
She's out of sync.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, there's a lot of successful businessmen and athletes that you might think that white woman that you see him with is his wife. That's not his wife. That's his escort to go to certain events, because he still got his wife at home. I know this for a fact, because he love her, he take care of her, but she's not cultured enough to fit in, and she don't want to let go that hood life.
That hood life.
She still want to do it her way and do the head bobbing and da.
Mm-hmm.
He love her. That's the mother of his kids, but she on the down low. You know what I mean? So when he go out, they take out these little escort ladies, and that's half the problem. That's half the battle.
So let me ask you a question, Terry. The last woman that you dated, or the woman that you're dating now, is she black, white, Asian, Hispanic? What is she?
None of the above. I done gave up on the dating thing already.
Oh, so
you know why? I have no more fight in me. You know why? I'm tired of arguing, fussing, and fighting, and explaining myself over and over again.
So
I might have good intentions and bad methods.
Was that all black women, or was what women were complaining?
A combination.
Okay, so it was
over the years a combination. You know what I mean? It's just because what Ron had said, what you said earlier. First of all, we are already damaged goods, men. You know what I mean? And we internalize our pain. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And our hurt, mm-hmm. right? We don't discuss it with each other. You know what? If me and Ron gonna talk about a bad relationship, he might vent a little bit to me, I might vent a little bit to him, but we don't give each other advice. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't know how I feel about her, and I don't know how he feels about her. Mm-hmm. But you know what? One of the cliche things that most men say, "Oh, you figure it out, or you're a better man than me." Only way we're gonna say we ain't happy about his situation, you're a better man than me. We'll say that, and we'll leave it at that. we're not going into detail, and we're not giving him advice. We don't give each other advice. Women don't do that. Women click together and they tend to give each other advice. And usually it's bad advice because socially, if you're not peers, you don't know how she feels about him. So, and sometimes because when you got something to prove to your peers and your friends, well, you make a bad decision because guess what?
But you know what? I don't really think that they're doing it because they're just giving bad advice and they go like, I think that, hurt people hurt other people.
But
right?
Absolutely.
I think it's like you said, if they haven't done the work, right? The same way you said, you guys are damaged goods, right? So if they haven't done the work and they were forced into these roles where they had to be the head of the household, the mother, the father, the disciplinarian, the nurturer, they had to be everything, right? I'm every woman. They had to be everything and the dad, right? So they were forced into this by default, right? And so if you haven't healed that thing and you haven't done the work to kind of realize that, okay, I was forced into this role by default, but not every man deserves to meet that representative. A man that I'm trying to get in a relationship with deserves to meet my authentic self, right?
But the thing is, it's mainly just a conversation, right? But so many people listen to respond. Well, we have stopped listening to each other just to have a general conversation.
But that's my point. So women like Mama C, women like myself, and I was encouraged because I'm told that I'm rare in the way that I think and how I kind of side with the fellas a lot. So I was told, well, when you go do the shoulder thing, you got to let the sisters know that they need to listen to you. They need to listen to other sisters. Even when you can't listen to the brothers, listen to other sisters, but listen to sisters who've done the
right
work.
sisters, the sisters who've done the work. Because you are going to get some wise advice from sisters who've done the work. Yes. The problem is not a lot of women have done the work. And that is what causes the conflict. Because if you have other women who are hurting and who are out of sync with their authentic selves, they're not going to be able to give you healthy information, advice, wisdom, none of that. So you got all of this misconstrued information going back and forth between unhealthy women.
I see Renee has joined us. Renee, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm a little late. Really
late.
That's
okay. That's okay. Thank you for joining us. So Renee just said that women are forced into, I guess, to put in simpler terms, masculine roles by default due to the absence of men, Black men, right? So when you're in that situation where you have to be everything, mom, dad, the nurse, the doctor, the psychologist,
the worker,
right? How do you not have some degree of anger when you know that the same man that impregnated you is now out there looking to impregnate the next woman?
But that's misdirected anger. Because if you're going to be angry at the person that has you in that position.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right? Not angry with every man.
Not every man.
Now, I'm going to tell you what else that I've noticed. And again, I heard Mama C reference something that was similar and I was able to pinpoint it. It's just amazing how you grow and you get older and you look at things completely different. But I believe that when you interface and you come in contact with that man that really exudes real masculine energy, even when that masculine part of you wants to buck
Mhm.
You can't.
You
Right.
can't.
It
You're right.
tells you that you need to shut up
Like,
and let him be the man.
like, whoa,
Yes.
whoa, sister.
Yes.
Don't go
But
there.
There's too many
Right.
women that want to be the man and the woman in a relationship, and you it just don't work.
Here we go.
It's kind of like being in a homosexual relationship.
No.
Ooh.
And my
Hold on.
opinion is,
Wait a minute. Hold on. I was quiet. I was sitting here for about 30 minutes listening. Whoa. No.
Hi, Renee. Hi, Renee.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, ladies, how you doing?
Good.
No.
It ain't like being in a homosexual relationship.
No.
To me, it is.
No.
No.
Hold on. Okay, it was so funny because I was on calls all day, and one of my best friends called me, right? And we just had this same conversation. I've been knowing her for about 25 years. We had the same conversation. She just relocated, actually last night into this morning, from Raleigh to New Jersey. She relocated. She called her ex-husband. Now, they're very good friends, okay? I mean, they really hang out. Like, they're better friends than they were married. She asked him to help her, relocate. Now, she has a whole house full of furniture. So it's her and her two daughters, his daughters. Okay. He told her, now she's been talking about this for about 5-6 months because she was a teacher and she was waiting for the school year to end. Okay. And so he told her, he was like, I got to work overtime. He's been at his company for about 15 years. He has the days. I got to work overtime. I can't do it. I can't help you now. He said, but let me know when you guys get in Jersey. But see, this is the thing, right? And she and we both agreed. Now, I think Mama C and Romane, I think we all can agree, right? We are at an age where we want to step back. And we want to let you do the man because we have done the work. We understand.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of people saying that we want, and Terry just said, we want to be the man and the woman. Come to me with something, okay? When I say something, I'm not saying we're not even probably saying come to me with 50, 60. We're not even going to quantify it, but come to me with something. Because a lot of these brothers now are coming with nothing but toxic energy. And as Roman said, misdirected. I talk to these guys all day, every day. You want a woman to kind of chill out and fall back, but when I need you for one little thing, you can't do it. You're sitting there looking at me, I'm looking at you, and you're like, well, you give us no choice. So now we have to put our daughters in that situation because we like, look, have your own because you don't know. Because you've given us no choice. We don't want to be the man and the woman in a relationship. Mm-hmm. We don't. And I know black women come across. Hold on. Black women come across as being angry. That's because we have endured way more than any other race.
Yeah.
We don't want to. Prime example for me, right? The question I always get is, what do you need me for? Because I live in Jersey, it might be 2 feet of snow. Because I just need maybe support. What do you mean? Just because somebody has a job or somebody has had some accomplishments, what do you need me for? But you have come with nothing. So now when you come to me, I got to raise you almost worse than my kid because you don't came to me with your mental problems, probably your physical problems, because most of y'all sick. Mm-hmm. Okay, you came to me with no money.
No money.
You're real salty right now.
No, I'm not salty because we had this conversation more than one time, and we get this. Oh, what you need? You want to be the woman and the man? No, we don't. We don't want to be, but we're pissed.
But
hold on. You know why we pissed? I'm gonna be quiet after this. You know why we pissed? Because we want to say, come to us with something. If you look at the black men right now, hate to tell you this, 65% of them probably in prison. The other half, and we're gonna break it down, quantify, because see, I've looked at this, okay? Now we're talking about between 40 and 60. Okay, bad credit, nothing, no money, living home with your mama, no money, okay, LGBT, no job, 2, 3, 4 baby mamas. Okay, the other 10% is they're just toxic because they got daddy and mommy issues. So now that leaves us with 20%. We know there's one woman for every 20, 30 men. So what are we supposed to do with that? So don't say we trying to wear the pants and the skirt. Right? When you call me, what am I doing all the time?
Working.
Okay. Working. Romanet, what are you doing? Mama, see, I'm sure y'all out here doing the same thing. It's not that we don't want a man. I met a guy the other day. He was like, "Oh, babe, I want to take you out." Okay.
I
You're
got
45 years old living at home with your mama.
Put that out there.
Jobs. Are you serious? Tell me, oh, I'm going to take you out on a date. He going to take me out on a date in Jersey up here, paddle boating. I'm got MS. We're going to get in the middle of that water and can't get back. We're going to be calling the fire department.
But you know what, Renee? I want to pull from what you said. You said,
I'm sorry, paddle boating.
I had to teach my daughter to have her own. And see, there's a difference between teaching your daughter to have her own than teaching your daughter that she needs to be completely independent.
Exactly.
Because see, I can have my own and come into a union, right? And have a cooperative relationship.
Yeah.
I can't have a cooperative relationship if I'm coming into it with the mindset that I'm going to be independent.
Exactly.
I'm independent and I'm going to remain independent.
Right. Because I may have my own.
There is a difference.
There's a difference. And my question is simple as this. Some of the stuff, most of the stuff you said is true, right? But you can't paint everybody with the same brush.
I ain't say everybody.
But listen, what happens when you meet the guy who got the job, got the crib, got the career, got his own money, his own home, he bringing something to the table? When do you turn off that mind?
Where are they?
Listen, when you need to change the stores, you shopping in there. You know what I mean? If you don't come across them, you got to shop in better stores. You know, you got to step your game up because the men are out there. But the bottom line, men and women are so black men and black women are both damaged, right? And if everybody is walking into the relationship with their fists balled up, with their guards made up, with a predetermined mindset, it ain't never gonna work.
Yeah, just like Damon Dad said. Damon Dad said y'all level us up, and then we leave your ass for a white girl, and then he do it. That's what they doing. Where are they? Because I'm in 400 different groups, Facebook groups and stuff. So where are they? Because trust me, it's a lot of women out here that are good women. We ain't walking around with our fist balled. We tired.
Well, you know something?
Yes,
Terry made a very valid point when he talked about the damaged goods, right? That is a problem, right? And I'll tell you something. Years ago, I was in the Nation of Islam, and Elijah Muhammad said this decades ago. He said, there's no such thing as a no good woman. He said, if you find one, there's a no good man that put her in that situation.
There you go.
So I think what happened is that Black men were the target of, I guess, America, simply to get him away and make the Black woman and the community vulnerable.
And weak.
Mm-hmm.
And you know something? Many of us fell for it hook, line, and sinker, because you hear men talk about how the social net, like welfare and things of that nature, made the man obsolete, right? Whereas, well, she can do better off without me. No, brother, it doesn't work that way. If you think about it, yeah, the government is giving her, subsistence level. But what about your children? What about being the example, the role model? What about being a part of their lives?
Mm-hmm.
So you get up and you leave. Where do you go? You want the companionship of a woman, so you're going right to another woman
with the same
issues, right? So it becomes a vicious cycle. And I use the term fab, right? Frustrated, angry, and bitter, right? Do Black women have the right to be fab? after all that's happened throughout the generations, do you women, black women, have the right to be frustrated, angry, and bitter?
You don't have the right if you're not willing to fix it.
Okay.
Then you want to be stuck. And guess what I have to say? You go sit in the corner by yourself and
Mhm.
be angry and
And be
bitter and
angry.
mad by yourself.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And
But
while
if
you
you-
at it, turn around.
Yeah.
And face the wall.
Face the
Nobody
wall.
want to see you.
Thank you. Including
Okay.
the women. We don't want to see
We don't want to
you
see
either.
that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you can be angry and bitter if you're willing to do the work so you're not stuck.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if you take a poll, all these women, just like Renee just said, she says she's in 400 groups on Facebook. Where are the men, right? Which means women want relationships.
Right.
So if you want a relationship, then do the work so that you're prepared for a relationship. Because if you haven't done the work and you still angry and bitter, you're not even ready for a relationship.
But I shouldn't say, I think I know men want relationships too.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
Absolutely.
they do.
However, because of the situation, and when I say situation, what I'm referring to, when they talked about how many black men are absent from, prison, the prison pipeline, from gay or transgender, the number of eligible men has decreased substantially,
Mhm.
and it's been that way.
Mhm.
This just didn't start. And if you think about it, after slavery, the process began to drive the black man away. Then what happened in our communities? Economic pressures, drugs, alcohol. So eventually, these things are predetermined. If you take poor people and you stack them on top of one another in the projects, and you give them alcohol, drugs, and guns, it's just a foregone conclusion they're going to turn on one another. And of course, the rate of attrition is so high for black men. However, there are black men out there who want to find a good woman. Shouldn't be that hard to find.
Right.
Yeah, you have to understand when you come in contact with some women that they're going to be angry, they're going to be frustrated, and some are going to be bitter. Not because necessarily what you did, but what someone else did.
Right.
You know,
And
let me ask you this, and this is for you and for Terry. These the brothers in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, at 55, or I don't know how old you guys are.
We're the same
we
age.
leave you at 55.
Okay.
Does that
thank
sound
you.
fair?
Yes, fair.
Okay, so
I'll
at
take it.
55, you want a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've worked, you saved, you built, you sacrificed, you did all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're now approaching retirement, or for like you, Ron, you're retired,
Mhm.
right? So you did all of this work. Now at this stage of your life, you want a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
When you meet this woman that's 50 years old,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know whether to start younger, because I'm hearing that the older you guys are, the more you want
The younger they
20,
get.
20 years younger than you. I don't know. I don't know
Not
no
me.
more.
No,
But-
that's a
but-
misconception.
Uh-uh.
If you meet this woman who's 50 years old and angry and bitter, are you really willing to
Nope.
do all of that work
all
at
depends.
55 years
It all
old?
depends. It all depends. Now, what Mama C and I were saying, prior to coming on the air, so many of us have never had an outlet to release our anger, release our frustration. So many women across the globe are not heard.
Mhm.
I saw on TV the other day where in India, a young woman had been promised to a guy
Mhm.
to marry.
You're telling me.
She decided she was going to do it. Her brother beheaded her and walked around with the head.
Mhm.
So a lot of women don't have a way or an outlet to vocalize what they feel
Or escape the craziness.
and escape the craziness. And you know something? A lot of times we as black men don't give our sisters the proper platform to allow them to express what it is they feel.
Okay,
Right.
so you decided that, okay, if she's worth it, I might do some of the work with her,
Yes,
right?
yes.
6 months later, she's still angry and bitter, but 20% less bitter.
You know
No,
something?
no. 2 years later,
Mm-hmm.
she's still angry, but she's not bitter.
But the wall's coming down,
Fi-
right?
You 55 years old.
Yeah.
How many years
Ain't got too much
do
time.
you have to put into
Ain't no
this?
do-overs.
We ain't got that much time. We ain't got that time.
She might not. The wall might not come down to your funeral.
Okay.
What you may at the funeral discover he was a good man. He was such a good man. But
She
I'm
might.
saying how much, and the reason why I'm pointing this out is because if she's already doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you meet her and she's transparent, that's another thing we have to learn how to do.
Right.
We have to learn how to be
Everybody.
transparent. Just
Absolutely.
say what it is. You know,
Absolutely.
listen, I've been in a relationship. He was a piece of crap. And so I might have a little issue. You're going to have to, work with me a little bit
Mhm.
because I might be a little distrusting. Or I might, once she can verbalize that, that's kind of a big part of the battle
Yeah.
with
Getting rid of the
meeting
baggage.
this woman. Right.
Put all your cards on the table.
But you
That's
gotta
it.
make sure that the man that you are communicating with is healthy enough himself
There's that,
to
there's
respond.
that masculine.
Yeah, to respond
Right.
appropriately.
Yes.
If you're trying to release and let go of all of this and develop a relationship with this man, but this man is not healthy enough
Mhm.
to do that.
We become
That-
defensive.
You become
Right.
very
And,
defensive.
Right.
and guess what happens though? If you start what do they call it? Courting. If you're courting, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you notice that he's not healthy emotionally, right?
Mhm.
Then guess what? Instead of being bitter and angry and boisterous and loud and confrontational and argumentative and distrusting and all these things, how about this for the sisters? Bounce. Just bounce.
Right.
Just bounce. Like,
Right.
why are you
Bounce.
wasting your time
Why are
if
you
you
wasting
see
your
it
time?
already?
Exactly.
But you know
exactly.
something? That's a good question. And that goes back to the discussion we had last week on manipulation, right?
Mhm,
Why do women allow the manipulation?
Mhm.
Why do women stay
mhm,
when you know he's abusive physically, emotionally? You go to work. You don't have to come home.
mhm.
I get it. Sometimes there's children involved. So you have to come out with a plan in order to get the children out safely and yourself out safely.
Mhm.
For most women, the most dangerous time is when they tell him I'm leaving.
But we're not talking about women that are already knee deep in the doo-doo.
Mhm.
We're talking about women where we're dating.
Right.
Mhm.
I see that you don't have the characteristics that I'm looking for in a
Mhm.
man.
Right.
Don't tell me you didn't know because you saw it.
Absolutely.
You chose to not take heed to what was presented.
Because
to
you know, Robin, women always think he'll change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
Right.
And he will not change unless he sees the need to change, and it will not get better because you want it to
Yes.
get better.
Yeah.
And you cannot marry potential.
Well,
That's
well,
what
you know
they
what?
do.
That's the biggest mistake women make.
Yes.
And
You
men too,
cannot-
you marry potential.
Yes.
You can't change a man,
No, you can't.
and you can't change a woman.
Yeah, you're right.
You can change their plans. You know what I'm saying? You have to work with what you got and collectively work as a unit, and let the past be the past. That's why it's important to lay all your cards on the table. You know what I mean? Talk about that past relationship, what went wrong.
Mhm.
Talk about those hurts and them pains and sorrows and things that you went through. Talk about your finances and all that other stuff. Get it all on the table.
Yeah, when you
But
healthy
If
enough.
you see the value in that
Yes,
man.
but the problem is everybody can accept that. You have to be at a level of maturity where you can listen and apply it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because bottom line is, the older we get, our social circle gets smaller.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And the smaller it gets, the more healthy your relationship should become.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
cannot allow people to come from the outside to interfere. That's why I knew we was gonna have this conversation. That's why the song that I opened this song with,
I love that song. What's
Mhm.
the name of that song?
That's gotta be
send it
Baby
to
Face,
me.
right?
yeah, that's right. You know what I'm
Send it to
saying?
me. I love that.
That song says it all. You know what I mean? Because you can go through a whole lot of things, but you got to deal with it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And you
Mhm.
can't let nobody come in between that if you're working on building something.
Mhm.
Because we've all been hurt. We've all got some baggage.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But if you put it on the table and you work towards it and stop running outside your household, outside your relationship for advice. If you need some advice, go get some counseling.
I was just getting ready to
Go
say that.
go
Go
get some
get a therapist.
go get some counseling from somebody other than your friend. Because
Right.
guess what? If you're not socially peers, they can't give you advice. And because their life looked happy, you don't know what's going on behind that closed door. Because don't see what you see on social network and think they're in bliss. No, they keep up appearances because they realize that their relationship is business. It's better for them to stay together financially and put on the front than to ruin it all over.
And you're right, Terry, but there's got to be two people who are emotionally and spiritually intelligent enough to do that. That's the answer. But a lot of times you don't have two people who are emotionally and spiritually intelligent enough to do that. And so there's always going to be that continued battle because you got two unhealthy people trying to do something they don't know how to do.
But let me ask you guys a question, right? Because you brought up a great point, right? You too, Roman. I keep telling Ron all the time. I said, Ron, you're like an outlier, right? Because there's not too many Rons anymore like that. I mean, it may seem like it, but it's really not. You know what I mean? It's really not. But then again, you gotta look at Ron was raised by a great father, you know. And I could even say for me, I said, shoot, my daddy damaged, you know. And that's the truth. He's damaged. But in my household, whatever went on in the household stayed in the household. But we functioned in the dysfunction. We got out of it, and now we know better. But he was damaged. Now,
but like you said, y'all worked through it some way, somehow, inside the house.
No, that fool lived next door. You know that.
Well, look, that's what man's got. And listen. He's still a better man than most people, than most people ever had in their life. You know what I mean? Because you grab any man, you can grab a whole lot of men. You talk about some personal stuff on the inside. If you stack your father next to the average dude, he shine like gold. And I know for a fact.
Yeah.
You know what? More people rather have your father than the father they got.
Now, no, look. Let me tell you, that is.
How many people can say I live next to my father because he set me out? He brought the house next door and he renovated it so I can move and live right next to him. How many people you know can say that?
Right, because he's trying to control me and my mama.
See, that's your problem.
People in his mind.
Black girl going wild. Still ain't never happy. Ain't never happy. Gonna find something wrong with a situation, one way or the other. By hook or by crook.
But you know what?
Definition of a man. You gotta figure out.
We can't clean up dysfunction and make it look pretty. It's dysfunction is dysfunction. And most people don't get out of dysfunction until they get away from the dysfunction makers.
And you have
right, Mama, see, right.
You have to
that it is dysfunction.
That it is dysfunction. Like
because a lot of us don't recognize that it's dysfunction.
Absolutely,
it's
because it's normal. Exactly.
Right.
At 19, I recognized I lived in a dysfunctional household. My father was in that household, but it was dysfunctional. He was sexually abusive to me and my sisters. We got put out of our apartments numerous times, walking in the middle of the night with a shopping bag and a suitcase. Just because he was around doesn't mean it was a good thing. I would have preferred him not to be around.
Well, I better shut up because this fool crazy, but he ain't all of that.
Well, you know what?
Crazy.
You know what? Yeah. I guess so many of us have a level of dysfunction, right? And are able to function within the dysfunction, right? It's like a functional addict.
You survive in the dysfunction
anymore. But you know what? We're getting close to that time. Right?
We are, and because I'm comfortable with being in the feminine role and letting the men lead. My sons told me to be in Lehigh Valley at 7:00,
and that's what you
and I'm going to do that.
I get that.
I'll be in Lehigh Valley at 7:00.
So you know what? I just think that with this conversation, we're kind of scratching the surface. I think there's a multi-layered conversation.
It is.
It is.
I think maybe next week we need to look at this from maybe a different perspective.
And we need to come back.
We need to come back and look at it from a different perspective, right? Because we need to figure this thing out, right? because the dysfunction that has been part of our lives for the last, say, 30 years, we're passing that on to the next generation.
Absolutely.
And when
Absolutely.
you see
Absolutely.
young people that can't decide if they want to be male, female, or if they want to be a furry, then we know we have failed somewhere along the line. So we got to have these conversations. So we're going to try to come back next week, and we want to do a part 2. So hopefully, Renee, hopefully you can join us again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know my shirt wrinkled, but I wanted to come on today.
No, that's quite all right. And hopefully,
funny.
Mama said you can come back with us
I'll
again.
come back with you guys.
Please.
Thank you so much.
Ron asked me. I guess I will.
All right, well, thank y'all. And listen, I hope that what was heard today strikes a chord with someone, right? Hopefully, I'm hoping that men are listening, and not just hearing, but listening.
Yeah.
And understanding, right, that these ladies have a right to feel the way they do and to be able to express it. And we need to be mature enough to listen and not be defensive, be open to it and receptive to it, and understand that's part of the healing process.
And do the work so the men can lead.
So the men can lead. Hey, I want a man.
Thank
to
you,
lead,
Romane.
You know, I
Work
that.
so the men can lead.
Romane, I'm with you, girl.
Hey, look,
Yes, yes.
I want to be able to shut up. I'm like, okay, good, go ahead.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Me too, I'm tired.
I'm going to let us go out with the same song that I opened us up on.
Oh, please.
You know what I mean? So we're going to get with y'all next week.
Okay.
Works
All
for
right.
me. Okay.
What song?